on this computer. There we go. And we're going to work through the most missed on this practice test that I gave. So Claire, you took this. Blake, Abba, you did not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a question, and then I'm going to let you guess what you think it is. And then I'll tell you what it is and why. And hopefully the kids will cooperate. We'll see. Here we go. Okay, so can you guys see that the screen 2020 questions? Do you remember where there's those thumb things are? You can use those if you don't want to keep unmuting yourselves, right?
Wait, the what?
There it is, Blake. Yeah, it's those emotion things. Yeah, emojis, I guess. Where? Yep, you found it, Claire. You found it.
Wait, Miss Eder?
Hey.
Clara's trying to like join, but for her it says like she's waiting for the host to start the meeting, which it said that for me too, but like I don't know how to fix it.
Who's waiting to join?
Laura.
I
think it says that for a lot of people then, because like that's what happened to me.
Oh no. Okay. Hang on. How can my screen sharing is paused. I want to pause the recording. Okay. We have resumed the recording. We are now going to go through the most missed questions on the practice exam that I gave my current students. And there were some questions that a lot of people missed on this one. And then there's other questions that a fair number missed. So I'm just going to devote, I think we've got about 14 questions here, and that's primarily what I'm going to do today. And then if we have any leftover time, you guys can ask questions. Willow does have a birthday party to get to, so have to be done by 3. All right, so you ready to dive in? Let's do it. Show me those thumbs, people. All right, there's one. Good, good, good. I'm sorry, guys. I hear screaming. Hang on just a minute. Hang on. Willow? Willow? Okay, ready. Let's dive in. All right. So one of the questions that a lot of people missed was this one. And by a lot of people, I mean a ton of people. So the question is looking at this bar graph. So if you took this practice test, one of my current students, you remember this. And if you didn't take it, look at the graph, look at the question, and try to determine what you think the answer is. So we've got population by race and Hispanic origin here. And then it walks through a bunch of categories along the left. And then you've got percentage of the total population at the bottom. So the question is asking you, which of the following is a likely effect of the trend depicted in the bar graph on voting and elections? So I don't think I remember how to use the chat. Do you guys just want to unmute yourselves and guess what you think the answer is? After you've looked at it, of course. So the trend is that the white alone population is decreasing as time progresses, right? You've got 2012 and then you've got 2060. So with that in mind, that should tell you that you're going to have the Hispanic ethnicity group increasing. You're going to have Asian alone, Black alone increasing. So with that in mind, you have the white alone population decreasing, minority populations increasing, and look at your choices here. You're looking at how people tend to vote. So what do you guys think the answer is? Oh, people are writing in the chat. That's good. I have a guess for B. I have a guess for C. I have a guess for C. So the answer is C. Okay, it's C. I'm not exactly sure. Like I said, a ton of people miss this. So perhaps there was a little bit of, yay, Vivica. Perhaps there was a little bit of confusion with voter turnout, but this isn't necessarily saying that voter turnout is going to increase. It's just saying certain populations are going to increase. And if you go based on stereotypes of what we've learned in class, who's likely to vote and which way are they likely to vote, that leaves us with C as the answer. Does anybody have a question about this? Because now is the time to ask. Okay, and if you do, put it in the chat, I'll be alerted. Wyatt, you okay? I think they're okay. Alrighty, here's our next question. And I really think it's likely you're going to see another question very similar to this on the AP exam. They love to ask questions about this. So we have a chart showing us the number of African-American Southern state legislators, and it's from 1960 to 1992. Can anybody either put in the chat or come off mute and tell me, why do you think we're looking at that time frame before 1960? Yeah, why are we comparing 1960 to after that? Did something significant happen? People in the chat. Ooh, you guys are good. I love that we're already thinking about this question. Thank you, Blake and Cameron. So in 1965, there was significant legislation that was passed. Does anybody recall what it was? Okay, we're going to do this. That's fine. I'll just tell you. It's the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act is passed, right? Nicola, I'm so sorry. I saw you last minute. Thank you, kiddo. So this kind of explains why this number is on the rise, yes? So now, which of the following statements presents the most important limitation of the data? That's what you're being asked here. So what do you guys think the answer is? Put it in the chat. All right. I got to vote for B. I got to vote for A. I got to vote for A. So the time frame perhaps isn't misleading because we can see such a significant change. The real problem here that gives us limits to interpreting this is, what's the total number of state legislators? We see the number that have increased of African-American legislators, but we don't have a way to compare that with the total amount of state legislatures in Southern states. So even though maybe there's, you know, by 1990, there's 200 out of how many? That might seem like a lot, but really how many are there? True, there's an increase, but just how significant of an increase is this? So that's why the answer is B, okay? So in the chat, oh, we're happy. Okay, good. I'm happy for you, sweetie. See, B. Okay, give me thumbs if we're good. We'll move on. Okay, can you guys hear them screaming? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This is life. This is life. Why is B wrong on your test? B was marked wrong on your Scantron. So Code and Claire, that was me messing up on the key, I'm guessing. Children? Hey. Want to watch the dinosaur? No, I'm having a meeting like I told you. Do you want the dinosaur or do you want super simple kid songs? Okay. It's good parenting, guys. Television is a babysitter. Okay, let's move on. All right. So now we've got job approval ratings for presidents from 45 to 2012. Now, when you see a chart, a good thing that I would do is I would immediately try and figure out what the trend is, okay? So take a look at this chart. And again, if you took this test on Monday, last Monday, then this is familiar. If it's not, we did this in class a long time ago. So should be familiar to everybody. So they're asking you, which of the following correctly identifies an implication of the line graph? So look at choice A, presidents are far more likely to make changes to the bureaucracy at the end of a second term than at the beginning of a first term. I mean, you know, that's not really focusing on too much there. The Supreme Court is more likely to rule on an important case at the beginning of a first term than at the end of a second term. Nope, nope, nope. I've got a guess in the chat here. I have somebody guessing A direct message to me. So it's going to be B, and it's going to be B because the trend that you're seeing in the chart here is that presidential approval ratings are higher at the beginning of a term, and they're lower at the end of a term, right? Now, does anybody recall what the end of a presidential term is called?
Lame duck period.
Hey, Danny, I recognize that. Yes, Kaysen. Yes, Danny, good job. So at the lame duck period, remember, if they're term limited or they weren't reelected from that time span, November to January, it's going to be hard to get them to get things, hard for them to do things, to get things accomplished. And if presidents are term limited and their approval ratings aren't that great, Congress is probably not going to be wanting to attach themselves to that president very much, right? So you see some Democrats already distancing themselves from Biden leading up to these midterm elections. So there you go. They're going to have much better chance to get Congress to go along with something when their approval ratings are high. And typically their approval ratings are higher at the start of their presidency. So B is the answer. Anybody have a question about that one? Okay. Hope Coco Melon isn't proving too distracting in the background. All righty, so this chart shows us congressional leadership, right? And we are looking at the House, and then we're looking at the Senate. And we see some things in common. And what you should notice is that you've got a majority party leadership and you have minority party leadership, okay? In both the House and in the Senate. It's just there's like a little bit of a difference at the top in the House than there is at the Senate. And of course, they're different people. So this says, based on your knowledge and the diagram, which of the following is true regarding the leadership structure of Congress? All right, so look at these answers and go ahead and weigh in on the chat what you think the answer is. All right, I've got one brave soul in the chat. Oh, a few more. Great. All righty. Oh, hello, Samantha and Aaron. All right, so we are saying A, and we are awesome because A is correct. Yeah, so the role of the minority leader in both the House and the Senate is to coordinate a strategy for the minority party. Just like in the Senate, that's the job of the majority party leader. In the House, it's more the job of the Speaker of the House, because those are the two positions within Congress where the power is really. In the House, it's the Speaker of the House. And yes, there is a House Majority Leader underneath Nancy Pelosi, and then the whips underneath them. But in the Senate, the same is not true for the President of the Senate. Remember, guys, the President of the Senate is the Vice President of the United States. And as an elected member of the executive branch, they're limited in what they can do in the Senate, right? They can only vote in the Senate to
Break up a tie.
break a tie. Hello, Willow.
It's too quiet and we can't hear the movie.
Okay, it can't be that much longer louder than that. Just
I need to hear better.
there you go. There you go. There you go. Okay, yes, so the vice president only votes to break a tie, and they're often not there. And when they're not there, the person who sits at the head of the Senate meeting is the president pro tempore, who is also not the most influential member of Senate because it's largely a ceremonial role for the oldest person in the majority party in the Senate. So Patrick Leahy's old, that's why he's the president pro tempore. But the real power in the Senate, that's the majority party leader. It used to be Mitch McConnell. It is now Chuck Schumer, and we'll see who it becomes in January of next year. Okay, you guys good there? Any questions? Okay, then let's keep going. Alrighty, the majority party, ooh, didn't mean to do that. Well, now you know what it is, but just pretend you didn't see that, okay? Fudge, Elizabeth. All right. So the majority party in the Senate is concerned that the Supreme Court has made a number of ideologically dangerous and controversial rulings. Which of the following actions would the Senate take in their attempt to limit SCOTUS's power? Take a minute. And this is asking about the Senate specifically. What do you guys think the answer is? Put it in the chat. Let's see. Taking wild guesses, and we're guessing B, 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 B. Well, guys, you are going to be prepared for tomorrow because that is correct, or Monday, sorry. Yes. If the Senate wants to limit SCOTUS's power, they will pass legislation that would limit the impact of SCOTUS's recent rulings. I'm going to give you a specific example. You could use this on an FRQ, US v. Lopez. So in US v. Lopez, the Supreme Court ruled that the Gun-Free School Zones Act was an overreach of congressional power under the Commerce Clause. So what Congress did, and Senate is a part of Congress, is they tweaked the wording a little bit and brought in interstate transport of guns to make it fit under the Commerce Clause. So remember, the Supreme Court has no enforcement mechanism, right? They don't have the power of the purse like the Congress does. They don't have the power of the sword like the executive branch does. They're limited to the power of judgment. So they're not able to enforce their own decisions. Always remember the situation between Andrew Jackson and John Marshall, where John Marshall ruled in Worcester versus Georgia that Andrew Jackson and the federal government had no authority over the Cherokee Nation, that they were sovereign. And Andrew Jackson said, Marshall has made his decision, now let him enforce it, as kind of a to John Marshall. And that was very true. Now, if a lot of you thought C was an answer, it's true that a constitutional amendment is the most secure way to go around a Supreme Court decision. But can anybody tell me why C is not the correct answer here as it's worded?
It's because you need to have both the House and the Senate to vote, and then you have to have what, 3/4 of the state legislatures ratify.
Yes, Danny, that is correct. And yes, Claire, ratify is the term, right? Does Congress ratify amendments? The answer is no. State legislators ratify amendments, and they do so with a 3/4 vote. What's the language I want you guys to use when we're talking about Congress's part with amending?
Propose.
Yay! I think that was Blake, and Code, you got it too. Good, guys. Propose. And what vote is needed to propose an amendment by both chambers of Congress? Two-thirds. So there we go. All righty. So that's why it's B. I hope this is making sense to you, and I hope you're seeing how some of these questions can just have a little bit of trick to them, right? Okay. No problem, Madeline. All right. Next up, which of the following enumerated powers, so there's a key hint for you, right? Enumerated powers would permit Congress to stimulate the economy by hiring unemployed citizens. Okay. So Congress is going to be stimulating the economy. If Congress is stimulating the economy, put it in the chat for me, please, darlings. Is that going to be fiscal policy or monetary policy? Or say it out loud. I'll give you a hint. It involves taxing and spending. Fiscal. Yes, I like the all caps. This is wonderful. Yes, so it would be fiscal policy, right? So what do you guys think is the answer here? Congress can't pass a budget by themselves, right? That's a shared responsibility between the president and Congress. So we're left with A, B, and D. Put it in the chat what you think it is. All right, let's see. I have one answer so far. This is a tough one, right? Okay, so it looks like I might just stay with the one answer. Okay, so regulating interstate commerce. Let's talk about that. The Commerce Clause says that Congress has the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations, between the states, and with Indian tribes. That's the language. I'll skip the ad. There you go, honey. So is this trade with other states? Hiring unemployed citizens? It's not. It's not, right? What's another guess? A. So the power to create, oh, I messed up, guys. I'm so sorry. The power to create immigration policies. Also not A, because unless it said specifically unemployed immigrants, then that wouldn't be an answer. I messed up. It is C. It is C. I'm sorry, I got too distracted by down by the bay where the watermelons grow. So the power to pass a budget, they can pass it, but the president has to sign it. The president submits it to Congress. Congress can pass it. The president has to sign it. So I apologize. It is C. It is C. My bad. Okay. It is C. So if they're stimulating the economy, that means there's going to be taxing and spending. In this case, it's going to be spending because they're going to want to fund programs specifically for these unemployed people, right? Remember during COVID when there was extended unemployment benefits to people? That's an example of that. And that would need to go into the budget or at least into continued budgeting resolutions, which is typically what they pass. All right, so I'm sorry, that's my fault, but it is C. Okay. How about this one? 30. We've got the Supreme Court issued a ruling that was unpopular with the majority of Americans. The president and Congress might be able to lessen the impact of the decision by. Take a minute. All right, put in the chat what you think it is. Ooh, a lot of you are participating. This makes me happy. Oh my gosh, everybody's right. It's D. Good job. Refusing to actively enforce the decision. So that was a most missed question. Justices can be impeached, but only by Congress, not the president, right? That's one way that they're politically insulated. The president who appointed them can't just, remove them. Overruling the Supreme Court's decision by 2/3 vote in Congress. No, they can't do that. That's not good, right? Reducing the pay. No, actually, that's an expressed thing that is denied to other branches. The pay of SCOTUS cannot be lessened in an attempt to encourage that member to retire. So instead, interest groups just drive around the Supreme Court and blast, Breyer retire, which he did. Hi, sweetie. What are you giving me? Peaches, thank you. Oops. Okay. All right. So you guys got that one. Yay, good job. Let's move on. Alrighty, concurrent powers. So if it's asking about this, you need to know what those are. They have which of the following effects on the US political system? Take a minute and read these, put in the chat what you think the answer is, and then we'll look at it. I'm gonna wipe off my hands because that was real gross. Sweetie, where do you have the peaches? Are you eating them right there? You want your apple? You sure? Okay, wipe off your hands when you're done. Ew. All right, what do you guys think the answer is for 34? All right, it's D. It's D. Let's talk about why. So they make it possible, concurrent powers make it possible for the state and the national government to simultaneously exercise influence in the same areas of public policy. Can you guys think of some concurrent powers? Feel free to come off mute or just put them in the chat.
Taxing.
Somebody came off mute, but I didn't hear you. Taxing, good. Yes, taxing is a great example. Creating courts is a good example. Making laws is a good example. All of these are things that they can do both to simultaneous pass policy, because we need that, right? Every policy that passes in Georgia is not necessarily needed for the rest of the states. And what Georgia needs is more specific. So that way our state legislature can pass policy for us, while at the same time the national government is passing policies for the nation. So D is the answer here. For choice C, they foster cooperation between the states and national governments by requiring that two levels of government work together. That would more so maybe be a question asking about the concept of cooperative federalism, right? Cooperative federalism, also known as what kind of cake?
Marble
cake. Yes, marble cake. There we go. That would, okay, honey. That talks about fostering cooperation between the national and the state governments, okay? And don't forget the use of grants and aids, so whether they be categorical or block, those are ways that the federal government can achieve policy objectives within the states, okay? All right, so 34 was D. Let's look at 36. If voters are acting according to the retrospective model of voting, so we need to know what that is, which of the following will be the most important consideration in their decision? So retro should be a good hint for you there, right? Take a minute, look at those choices and tell me what you think the answer is in the chat. I got 3 people weighing in. There we go. Thanks, guys. Much better. It's C. It's C. So do you think that some people might be using retrospective voting in the midterms based on this? The answer is yes. The answer is absolutely yes. So do keep that in mind. If it's campaign promises, that's prospective voting, right? Just FYI. So make sure you understand the difference between prospective and retrospective. Okay, which of the following, is that scenarios? Yes, best reflects the process of political socialization. So take a minute and then put what you think the answer is in the chat. All right, we're starting to answer. Hopefully we're considering what political socialization is. All right, so we've got a little bit of C and a little bit of A. So C says a group is able to attract new members by offering access to a broad network of people. I think that would fit well by describing interest groups, maybe by describing the participatory model of democracy, or maybe contributing towards a broader definition of pluralism. The correct answer here is A, because political socialization is the process of how we develop our political ideologies. So if we're conservative, we're liberal, and then later on our party identification as well. So the major agent of political socialization, you might get asked that on the test. There is one answer. What's the major agent of political socialization? You can hear them in the background. Yes, absolutely. It's family. But school is another one. So you guys right now taking this course and developing opinions about politics is 100% contributing towards your political socialization. Okay. Are we good with that one? I will take your silence as yes. Okay, let's keep going. 41. Which of the following scenarios best illustrates a formal check on the power of the bureaucracy? So a formal check, formal meaning expressed, right? Enumerated. So something that's there. Take a minute, read it, and then put in the chat what you think it is. All right, people are weighing in. Here we go. Let's see. All right, for those of you who put B, you're going to be happy because that's correct. So a Secretary of Defense member being called to testify before a congressional committee is an example of Congress investigating, right? So that is congressional oversight. Congress can use oversight with the bureaucracy by messing with their budget, number one, or by investigating and then bringing them to committee hearings to talk about what they want to do. Because remember, the role of the bureaucracy is to take the laws passed by Congress and implement them, right? Implement them. And then if the bureaucracy is not implementing them in a way that Congress likes, then that specific standing committee who's looking into this matter can determine that they want to slash their budget for next year, can determine that, that they need to rewrite part of this legislation in a way that requires the bureaucracy to do what they're asking them to do. Yeah. Any questions there, kiddos? The reason it's not D is because neither of those groups involved are members of the bureaucracy. The federal judge is a member of the judiciary, and being impeached, that would be done by the legislative branch. Okay. All right, so there you go. Let's look at 45. Which of the following accurately compares formal and informal powers of the president? Take a minute, read it, because this can be tricky. And once you think you know, put your answer in the chat and we'll go over them, okay? All right, we got some chat activity. Oh, everybody's right. I see clearly that you're studying and you're prepared. That's correct. C is the right answer here. So the reason it's not A, vetoing legislation is formal, right? That's formal. So is the pocket veto. So that's why it's not A, okay? Using the bully pulpit to influence public opinion. The bully pulpit isn't something that's mentioned in the Constitution as enumerated. The president can address the people. So if the president's doing that through the State of the Union, I guess you could make an argument for that. But under informal powers, it says appointing ambassadors, that's formal. So that's why it's not B. And then formal, using the power of the purse, that you should stop right there. That's congressional power, right? Signing statements, those are informal. And remember, signing statements are different from line item veto. A signing statement, you're signing the legislation into law as a president. but you're including like a postscript saying, I don't like this part, I do like this part, I'm going to not enforce this maybe the way you think I will, that sort of thing. And a line item veto is where you're literally just drawing a line through a particular piece of legislation, vetoing that piece but signing the rest. The president does not have that power, governors do, okay? 47. Which of the following sets of Supreme Court cases best illustrates how views of federalism, federalism, your shirts are coming in soon, they're $8, bring me your money, have shifted in the United States. So you need to find the cases that involve federalism. Take a minute and then put what you think the answer is in the chat. Oh, it's quick. I got 4 votes for the same choice. And you 4 people are beautiful because you got it right. Yeah. So federalism has shifted. Remember, we start out at the beginning of our nation with more of a dual federalist approach. It's very clear who does what. Layer cake federalism. Federal government does this, state governments do this. And the federal government was seeming to continue to grow through the Supreme Court's interpretation of the necessary and proper clause in particular, which does come up in McCulloch versus Maryland, when they found the national bank to be an example of something that is necessary and proper and protected under that clause of the Constitution, because a bank helps Congress tax, borrow, coin money, regulate its values, so on and so forth. But then US v. Lopez is different because that was the Supreme Court siding with the states over the federal government and limiting Congress through the Commerce Clause, okay? If you're curious and you want some examples of how congressional power has grown through the interpretation of the Commerce Clause, I would cite Gibbons versus Ogden. That was that case about steamboats, where the federal government won. And then I would also cite Heart of Atlanta Motel, because if you guys remember the Civil Rights Act, which is passed in 1964, which said that there could be no discrimination in public places, including schools. So solidifying that court decision 10 years earlier in Brown versus Board of Education, and then no discrimination in hiring practices. That was a pretty big piece of legislation. It's going to be found constitutional simply by looking at the Equal Protection Clause, but it's also going to be found constitutional through the Commerce Clause, because people stay in motels from all over the United States, and thus that involves interstate commerce. And typically leading up to US v. Lopez, you have a hard time proving that something could not be interstate commerce. That's the reason why marijuana is still illegal at a federal level, because it's likely to travel across state lines, right? Okay, that thumbs up was to talking about federalism, not marijuana. I just want to make sure we're clear on that. Okay. Question 48. Which of the following describes the potential impact of on the electorate, that's the potential voting body, when daily media coverage of elections focuses primarily on the newest poll results? Look at those choices. Tell me what you think the answer is in the chat, and I'll tell you if you're right. Let's get a couple more people to weigh in here. Ooh, horse race journalism. That's right, Blake. All right, so we're kind of all over for this one. So let's talk about this. The correct answer here is D. Remember, when we just focus on who's ahead versus who's behind, the electorate is going to be less able to accurately compare the party platforms, decisions, or no, I'm sorry, not decisions, the stances of candidates running. If you're just looking at who's ahead, that's going to lead to a less informed electorate. All righty. So yes, media coverage can polarize based on what you tune in to watch. So maybe that's what we were thinking for A. For B, having horse race journalism will not necessarily like directly lead to less turnout, okay? It could lead to more disgruntled public, but that's not necessarily going to directly affect turnout on the day of. And remember, if you see on the test GOTV, that's talking about get out the vote, which is voter mobilization, something both parties are interested in. Let's look at question 50. Which of the following scenarios is an example of the trustee model of representation? Really good to know the difference between delegate and trustee. Politico's a little bit of both. So you read that, put in the chat what you think it is, and I'll tell you if you're right. 3 more after this, kiddos. Maui got out of timeout. Good job. Did he say he was sorry? Maui goes in timeout every day, guys. Every day he hits. All right, for 50. Oh, yay. I see you, you smart people. C is correct. So a member of Congress votes to close a popular tax loophole based on the belief that the money would be better spent paying down the national debt. So in this particular case, this member of Congress is doing what they believe is best for their constituents in the long run, as opposed to what's popular in the moment. Okay, that's what trustees do. Tell me in the chat or come off mute, where are we more likely to see trustees, in the House or in the Senate?
Senate.
Yes, I got a couple people in the chat and I heard whoever said that in class. Yes, it is the Senate. They're elected every 6 years instead of 2. And so they can make unpopular decisions that they think are best for the American people and hope that the American people will forget about it by the time their election comes up. Remember, 1/3 of the Senate is up for re-election at the same time. They call it a continuous body. Okay, so nice job there, kiddos. Question 52, we've got 53 and 54, then we're done. In which of the following situations would the Supreme Court be most likely to utilize the doctrine of selective incorporation? So important. You need to know this. Read through the answers, put in the chat what you think it is. I'll tell you if you're right. Hey, you guys are A+ in my book. You're right. Good, 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 good. Yeah, so if an individual claims that there is a right, a civil liberty protected by the Bill of Rights and the state is infringing on it, that's when SCOTUS can use selective incorporation. Hey, for a bonus, like, you know, in life, can you tell me what amendment?
14.
Yes, and what clause? Due process, yes, 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 yes. It's not equal protection. Equal protection comes into play whenever we're looking at something involving discrimination, right? Brown v. Board, Baker versus Carr, Shaw v. Reno, Obergefell versus Hodges, those sorts of cases. That's when the equal protection clause of the 14th Amendment comes into play. Listen, if an FRQ asks you about that, you cannot say the 14th Amendment. You have to be specific, all right? Good job, pumpkins. Proud of you. 2 more. Which of the following is a true statement about the role of the media in providing citizens with information? Okay, take a minute, because I think this one's kind of tough. All right, we're starting to make guesses. Well, you guys are totally on point here. It's B. Way to go. The American public wants to know what's happening, and they want to know what's happening now. So we have a 24 hours news cycle. There's news on social media, and quite a bit of the population gets its news from social media. You know, you might be asked about generational differences on the AP exam, not only in terms of how they vote, but also in how they get their information. So baby boomers are more likely to get their information from television than they are from social media. Whereas our generation, meaning mine, then yours, we're more likely to get it from social media. Okay. Last question. A public school district implemented a policy that allowed students to vote, oh, how timely, on whether they wanted a student-led prayer to be read at football games. This policy was later found to be unconstitutional by this US Supreme Court. Which of the following clauses did, I love how somebody's already answering this, did the policy most likely violate? All right, 5 of us, 6 of us. Let's see if we're right. Yay, good job, guys. It's D, absolutely. This is establishment clause. It's not free exercise, right? If the students were denied their ability to have like a club at school that is religious, that happened after school hours, that would be imposing on their free exercise of religion. Okay, so how do you guys feel? How did that go? Do you have any questions about what we just looked at? Well, those were, you know, close to 15 questions that are missed a lot on practice exams. So I hope that us going over that information was helpful, because not only were we able to look at the wording in the question and how that might lead us in one direction for some particular questions and wording and choices, but we also got to review the content a little bit. So tomorrow, if you would like to tune in at 8 o'clock, I'm just going to be taking questions. So any question that you have, you can send it my way. I'll be here. I'm not going to record that one, but I am going to record this one and put it out to the universe. Willow, Wyatt, come say hi. There's zombies in front of the TV. I guess it's not going to happen. Well, listen, hang out if you want to. Ask any questions. I've got like 2 minutes. Otherwise,